So far we've been looking at non-calculator methods for multiplication. We've looked at a couple of them and looked at how far we can take them and how large the numbers can be and how intimidating they can look before we start breaking them down into those non-calculator methods. During that time we spoke about reverse calculation and we spoke about checking your answers. We use a calculator to check our answers, but if you don't have a calculator to check your answers, what can you do? Well, you can divide the answers the other way around. So in order to do that, you need to be able to use long division methods. So whenever people hear division, start looking at numbers anything larger than a couple of digits, or really anything larger than 1 or 2 digits, they start to get quite intimidated and start to think, how do I actually do this? So we're going to look at a method first of all that breaks it down to make it easier to look at and makes it easier to think about the actual numbers involved. So in order to achieve this, first of all, we're going to look at a 3-digit number, but we're only actually going to divide it by a 1-digit number just to look at the concept. So the concept we're going to look at is the hangman method. Now, this doesn't involve me hanging anybody out to dry. However, if you don't pick it up and pass your exams, I will be hanging you up, stringing you up. So we're going to look at 463, and we're going to divide that by 5. So there's a 3 on the end, so it's not one that looks obvious straight away. And it's quite a large number, so it's not one that you can work out just off the top of your head. So we'll put the 463 in here, and we'll start trying to work this out. So 5 goes into 463 quite a lot of times. So how can we break this down and make it easier to work out? So put a big line down there and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. So think of a larger number. It doesn't go into it 100 times, because 100 times 5 is 500. So break it down. What's half of 100? 50. So 50 times 5 is then 250. So 250, take that away from the total. So we know it goes into 463 at least 50 times. We'll come back to these numbers at the end and I'll show you why we've got these at the side. We're going to add all these together. So 3 minus 0 is 3, 6 minus 5 is 1, 4 minus 2 is 2. So it goes into 463 50 times with 213 left over. So how many times does 5 go into 213? Well, it doesn't go into it 50 times, because 5 times 50 is 250. So if we cut that number in half, make the sums nice and easy. In fact, no, we won't cut the sums in half. We don't need to go that far. We'll look at another 10. We'll look at 40. 40 times 5. What's 40 times 5? 200. That's another nice round number. So 200. 213 minus 200 gives us 13. So now we need to do that. We need to look at that again. We need to look at how many times, and this is, you can break this down as many times as you like. So you could say, I know it goes in at least 10 times, you do 10 times 5, then you can do another 10 times 5, another 10 times 5, and I'll show you how this all comes together at the end. So how many times does 5 go into 13? Well, if we look at 2 times 5, that equals 10. Put 10 down there, and take that away, we have 3. That's how many you've got left over, because 5 doesn't go into 3, 5 is a larger number than 3. Now, like I said before, we're going to add all these together, because this is your answer. So it's gone into, it's got 5's gone into 463 50 times, and then it's gone into 463 40 times, and then it's gone into 463 2 times. So we just need to add these together. 50 plus 4 plus 2 is 92. And we've got 3 left over. We don't work with remainders. So, like I said before, break it down as much as you want. 10 plus 5 plus 2 plus etc. So you can work with as smaller numbers as you need until you get to the right number. So, if we've got a remainder, we need to turn it into a decimal. So it's a remainder of 3. It's not quite, it's not as big as that number, but it's up here. So it's up here, sorry. So we put a 0 there, and we turn it into 30. We're carrying it over into the next box, so it's 30. How many times does 5 go into 30? 6. So it's 92.6, and we can keep putting zeros on here. So if it didn't go into that 6 times, and there was, or if there was, it could just keep going and going and going. We'll talk about that in another video. It gets a bit too complicated. The point is this here. The most important thing is this here. So we'll add this number up. So let me just write the answer up here. So 463 divided by 5 is 92.6. And remember, if you don't get it, if you don't pick up the concept, and particularly if you don't ask me questions, if you don't get the concept, you will be hung. So 463 divided by 5 equals 92.6. It's as if I already knew that.